Again, hello to those who are watching on Twitch. For those who are watching on YouTube, we're doing a tier list live here on my channel. And all I said at the very start is that Amaterasu is a very reliable god. And I would never place Amaterasu on the S plus tier, but I would place her around the end of S tier because she does really well against Egyptians. Egyptians kinda struggle to deal with the weasels that, you know, they do this area splash damage, they demolish barracks units like axemen, spearmen, and everything. So just because Amaterasu does very well against the Egyptians, I'd place here around S tier at the end. But yeah, we will be adding more gods now. So, yes, this tier list is going to YouTube for those who are wondering, if you miss it on Twitch. And here's what we have here. Next god is Freyr. Let me be honest with you. Norse overall hasn't been doing too good in ladder and in tournament. One of the very last picks for everyone in the tournament and in the ladder. Freyr has very few good matchups, like Freyr demolishes Uranos and Gaia, in my opinion, and can do well against Greeks. But other than that, Freyr gets, you know, demolished by the Egyptian gods, the Chinese gods, and the Japanese gods. So I think I will be placing Freyr on B tier. Sorry, Freyr mains, sorry for that. That's my honest opinion. Also, my experience is speaking here, and my tournament experience. Freyr is really ranked low, in my opinion. What else is here? We have Fuzi. So, some of you might not believe that, but Fuzi is one of the best gods in the game. One of the very first priority picks for a tournament, which means you either pick Fuzi or Isis as your first pick. Or mostly Fuzi is your second pick. You know, first you go like Isis or, you know, Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi was pretty popular in the tournament. I don't think he's as popular right now. He's still strong. So I will be placing Fuzi on the S plus tier. I think there are a couple of gods, very few gods that actually are better than him. You will be seeing very soon, continuing with the tier list. Now Gaia. I'm not a fan of Gaia. I feel like Gaia has no real good matchups. Except Gaia is the god that is playable against the Japanese. Sometimes beats the Japanese. Like if you're very aggressive with Gaia against Tsukuyomi and you heroize all of your infantry units, which are extremely cheap with the upgrades, and you just focus for a long time in the classical age, that means you do well against the Japanese gods. Gaia, though, loses to the Egyptians, loses to Zeus, almost loses to Hades. It's pretty close. And I think Gaia is also good in Atlantean mirrors. So, but overall, there's nothing too special about Gaia. I feel like Gaia is like one of the last picks for your tournament games. So I'm not gonna put Gaia before Freyr, but I think Gaia has to be on the B tier, either just right in front of Freyr or behind Freyr. It's tough to say. I think, speaking about tournament, Gaia would be more reliable at this point because Norse has been heavily nerfed the last few patches. And yeah, I think Gaia is also not a good god, just has very few matchups that is playable. Next is Hades. Hades has been popular, you know, the standard Volsoferibus build and Toxods were buffed. That's pretty amazing. I think Hades is like a mid-priority pick in tournaments. You're not picking him first, you're not picking him last, so he's somewhere in between. I would easily put Hades on the A tier. So I'm gonna be picking a couple of gods here and there. We do have Set. I wouldn't rank Set on S plus tier. I don't think he is S plus tier. But Set has some really good matchups. Set demolishes the Atlanteans only Kronos can beat Set, and Set demolishes all the 4 Norse gods. But Set loses heavily to Fuzi and Isis. Fuzi and Isis destroy Set. So that's one of the reasons I cannot put Set on the S+ tier, but I think Set deserves to be just in front of Amaterasu on S tier. That's just the way he performs against Norse Atlanteans. And on top of that, Set can massively classical fight Tsukuyomi. So Set can be a weakness for Tsukuyomi. Just doesn't do too well against China and the rest of the Egyptians, in my opinion. So he cannot be on S+ tier, but he can at least be at the very end of S with Amaterasu. We are doing now Tsukuyomi. So for Tsukuyomi, I do think that Tsukuyomi he performed so well in the Champions League season 4. But then again, I feel like he has some weaknesses. He has one big weakness. Full pop classical fight is something that every single god can do against Tsukuyomi, and that's like the proper way to play against him. So having that there, I feel like if people hadn't figured out how to play against Tsukuyomi, he would have been on the S+ tier in front of Fuzi and would be like top 2 god in the game, in my opinion. Top 2 or top 3 god in the game. But now that people have realized and figured out how to play Tsukuyomi, I will be placing him just like in front of Amaterasu. You know, between Set and Amaterasu, because Set beats Tsukuyomi, so they go tie to tie or whatever. So I think that's what it feels to me. I don't know. You guys could give me your opinion here. And what else do we have on the list? We do have Thor. I will be placing Thor on A tier. Not a bad god. Not a good god. I think Hades is more reliable. You can do some very sick plays on Anatolia with Thor. Something that we saw from Recon and the Mista, which I did later with Odin. But yeah, I think Hades is slightly more reliable than Thor. Not stronger, but more reliable. Less bad matchups for Hades than Thor. The very next god on the list, let's go with Amaterasu. So Amaterasu loses to Fuzi. Amaterasu is one of the priority picks for tournament, but not the first. There are 2 or 3 gods you first prioritize before getting Amaterasu. Amaterasu definitely, I think Amaterasu is first on the S tier. It's not like there is no real terrible matchup for Amaterasu. Amaterasu can match Fuzi, but Fuzi, in my opinion, wins. Amaterasu can match the other 2 S+ tier gods. You'll be seeing me putting on S+. I might put 1 or 2, who knows. And I think Shaoong might be slightly better than Amaterasu. And I think Amaterasu has to be first on the S tier. Anybody who disagrees can just give me an opinion, and yeah, I'll be more than happy to discuss. And what is next over the list? Let's do Poseidon. Poseidon is good as long as you don't lose raiders, so it's up to you to play Poseidon properly. And I think Poseidon has such a good early game economy and mobility that he can take his ground. Poseidon can match the Egyptians up until, mid games where the Egyptians shine more against the Poseidon god. But Poseidon can still do some very good plays in the classical age, and later in the late game, Poseidon has a very strong late game. Yet again, I think Poseidon loses to the Chinese slightly. I think Poseidon loses to Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu. I cannot put Poseidon on the S tier, not at all. I can only just put him right in front of Hades. That's what I can do. Next for us is Kronos. Now, Kronos is very tricky. Some people are not playing Kronos the way he's supposed to be played. Like, there are only like, I'd say there are 5 or maximum 6 people who play Kronos like very well, who actually know how to play Kronos, and that's, in my opinion, is the Mista, Tunison, Mosca, because Tunison taught Mosca how to play Kronos. I'd put myself there as well. And I think Kronos is a very strong god. Kronos loses to Freyr, surprisingly. That Freyr is a B-tier god, but Freyr, once again, demolishes Kronos, in my opinion. So very few bad matchups for Kronos. And I think Kronos deserves to be on the S tier. And Kronos beats Tsukuyomi, in my opinion. Beats Amaterasu. And beats Set as well. One of the very few matchups that Set might struggle. So I think I'll be putting Kronos in front of Set. Many people will disagree with me. Really, many people will disagree with me, but I'm talking about tournament experience, countless hours of practicing daily, and I think my opinion might slightly matter more considering I won the Champions League Season 4. But I'm happy to any discussions if anyone thinks that Kronos is not on the S tier. I think, in my opinion, he's... yeah. Now, let's do Shaoong. I think Shaoong is the second, if not the first, best Chinese god. It's actually the second best Chinese god. It's first Fuzi, then Shaoong, and then Nuwa. Shaoong is a priority pick. I think Shaoong deserves to be... Shaoong has no bad matchup, first of all. I can only see Kronos doing well against Shaoong. So I think Shaoong has to be on the S plus tier, but at the last god on the S plus tier. I would always prioritize Fuzi over Shaoong. So we do have from the chat, Poseidon loses hard to Hades. No, I highly disagree. I played that matchup today. Coolest. I played that matchup today. It looked pretty one-sided. It's close. Hades and Poseidon is a close matchup in my opinion. Depends how well you raid and everything. Yeah, let's go back to Shaoong. So that's what I think about Shaoong. A very reliable god, no bad matchups. Can only see Kronos slightly being better than him. So that's what makes him reliable, and I think he has to be on the S plus tier. What's next? We have Uranos. Again, I'm not a big fan of Uranos and Gaia. Obviously, Uranos is better than Gaia. You can do some amazing plays with sky passages and everything. And a properly played Uranos can be considered an S tier god. But I think Uranos just has to be first on the A tier. Like, because there are some gods that just beat Uranos. And in my opinion, those gods are the 4 Norse gods that are not even, you know, that are not even that good in the current patch. So if you lose to the average worst civ in the game, you cannot be on the S tier. You can just be on the A tier because you are playable. Uranos is playable against Kronos. Uranos is playable against the Chinese, but he still loses to them. So just has to be around A tier before Greeks or first or after Greeks. I would put him somewhere there. I'll just put him on the A tier so Boyd does not complain. You know, first on the A tier. We do have Loki. Some people know what my opinion is on Loki. I can see Loki being useful on water maps where you don't have to fight to get food. Like Midgard, Anatolia. You saw me playing Loki against the Mista on Mirage because you have free food, you have the fish, the fishing ships. So these are the type of map spawns that can work for Loki. But now, overall talking, on land maps, I'm not a big fan. At least Loki was recently buffed. It's easier to spawn a couple of myth units, and if you're lucky and get Enhiri spawns, he can be an A. He can be first on the A tier. But I just don't find Loki any good. I think Loki has to be first on the B tier, one of the weakest gods in the game. And you might think I'm crazy putting Loki in front of Freyr, but I think it's like this actually. Yeah, Loki's after Freyr. Not a good god, very easy to abuse, heavily loses to all three Egyptians, get demolished by Kronos, get demolished by the Japanese gods, loses to the Chinese gods as well. I can only see Loki being good against the Atlanteans, nothing else. But not Kronos, because Kronos can just crash him, you know, quick 3-minute advance and just win the game there with deconstruction and everything. What's next on the list? We have Ra. Now, Ra is tricky, because Ra has some very bad scouting, you know, very weak scouting. Ra requires skill. It's not like the Woobly days where it's just a pick, you just pick it and win, and you know, you close your eyes and you just win, you just go AFK, make a coffee and win. That was the case for Woobly, but for AOM Retold, Ra requires a lot of skill and a lot of micro, and it's super hard to scout with Ra. But also, if you manage to do all of those things well, Ra is a strong god if you play Ra well. And I would either put Ra. I think Ra has to be in front of Set, because Ra beats Set in my opinion. Proper Ra playstyle can beat Tsukuyomi. I've proved that in the finals of the tournament. But Ra loses to Kronos in my opinion, and loses to the Chinese gods. So I'll be placing Ra over here after Nuwa and after Kronos, and just in front of Set. I think this is a very fair placement in my opinion. Change my mind. This is a very fair placement. Yeah. 4 gods are left. Now, now for Isis. I kept Isis kinda for the end because it's interesting. I still stand with this because this was probably the case in the last tier list I made long ago. And yes, Isis is the best Egyptian god. Oh my god. Isis is the best Egyptian god. Isis literally has no bad matchups, makes her extremely reliable, and it's a huge priority pick god for tournaments. Isis is the best god in the game. Some Isis mains will disagree with me. If you check my drafting, our drafting, you know, our drafts with the Mista and Recon and with people we usually practice and play, Isis was mostly banned, instantly banned, because we all know how it is, or was instantly picked because we also had ace picks. So yeah, it was like a first pick. Because once again, Isis has no bad matchups, super reliable, very strong god, and yeah, that's where I'm putting Isis at. Can we get magic input on this? Magic has retired. And for the last 3 gods, we do have Zeus, Susanoo and Odin. I'll be putting Zeus. Zeus is a very good god in my opinion. Also requires skill. And you have to do some very good micro and everything. But Zeus beats Kronos, which I really like. He's like a counter god to Kronos. But there is one bad thing about Zeus. Zeus cannot classical fight against the Chinese gods. Fire Archer, too good. Halberdier, too good against the Hippeus. Wuzu Javelineers, too good against the Toxotes. China has the best counter units against Zeus in the classical age. So Zeus cannot really fight China too much without Peltasts. So you have to rely on a semi-fast heroic to be able to fight back the Chinese and everything. So Zeus is obviously not as good as the Chinese gods. Zeus loses to Isis, in my opinion. And he's close with Set and Ra. Tsukuyomi beats Zeus, in my opinion. And Amaterasu and Zeus are also very close. So Zeus either deserves to be at the end of S tier or first on the A tier in front of Uranos. I think that's where Zeus deserves to be. And he has something good. He's very good on water maps. Probably loses to Thor on Anatolia and Hades. I think Hades and Thor beat Zeus on Anatolia. Otherwise, Zeus would be S tier if he was literally the best god on water maps. Zeus best Greek god? In my opinion, he is. Yeah. In my opinion, Zeus is the best Greek god currently because of the hero buffs. You know, you upgrade Olympian parentage, both heroes just regenerate at a super high rate. For the last two picks, I mean for the last two gods, we'll have Susanoo, and I think Susanoo has finally improved. He's finally playable. In my opinion, Susanoo loses to Kronos, loses to the Egyptians. All you have to do is massively classical fight him and force god powers defensively. There is a way to play around that as Susanoo, definitely. Not an S plus tier god. I don't think so. He's not a priority pick. Definitely not. Not a mid priority pick either. I think Susanoo is like one of the picks. If it's a best of 5, you will pick him last. But there are gods that you will not pick at all, like Gaia, if you're like an S tier, an S plus tier player. Or Loki. Only it's a best of 7, you could pick Loki, like I did. I picked him last in the finals. Susanoo has to be around here. I think Susanoo beats Thor, and he's close with Poseidon. So I think Susanoo has to be right after Poseidon on the A tier, which is a huge improvement. Because if this was like 1 or 2 patches ago, I would put Susanoo here on the C tier. If this was 2 patches ago. But he got buffed, insane favor income. People have figured out how to play Susanoo. He has few bad matchups. He's an A tier god. That's it for him. And at last we have Odin. Where do we place Odin now? Odin is very annoying for most people to deal with. Valkyrie raids are very devastating. Unlocking Odin the classical age was an amazing buff. You can now deal with Anubites, you know, in the long term classical age. And I think, in my opinion, Odin beats Loki, beats Freyr, beats Gaia. Odin has to be on the A tier because Odin loses to the Egyptians. Also loses to the Chinese gods, but you rely a lot on raiding. So when you have to raid, when you have to train that many cavalry and raid in order for your god to be good, to be strong, you know, powerful and everything, then what if your opponent makes no mistakes and you never manage to get a raid at them? You just lose the game. So that's the case against the Chinese, so I cannot put Odin on the S tier for that reason. Odin though does beat Amaterasu in my opinion. And he can compete against Tsukuyomi, definitely. But still, I think Odin is very close to Zeus. Odin beats Hades in my opinion. Odin beats Poseidon in my opinion. Beats Susanoo, and he's close with Thor. So he has to be around on the A tier, either first or second on the A tier, something like this. That's how it would look like. But I'll put... Odin is also playable on water maps, except Medit. Because you can do exactly what Thor does with Frost, you know, the freezing hammer ships. So that's where I'll be placing Odin, right after Zeus, because Zeus can fight against the Egyptians. Odin has no chance against the Egyptians. So yeah, that was overall the tier list for Age of Mythology Retold. I'm the Rabble, a S tier tournament winner, and I'd like to thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, leave a like, a subscribe, join my Discord server, and I'll be happy to see you in the next video.